My name is Tess Eric, and I am the HiSET Adult Education Manager. And I'm coming to you today with 23 years of experience in adult education through many avenues, teaching, orientation, assessment, and directing. So adult education is definitely my passion, and I am so happy to be here to share about the HiSET program and just an overview for you today. And I'd also like to introduce Tanya Hogue.
Unmute myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Tanya Haug, and I'm the Vice President for the HiSET program. I am happy to help support Tess in today's presentation. I will be monitoring the chat, so if you have questions, please make sure and put questions in the chat. And as we go through the presentation, we'll make sure to either address those verbally, or I might just be answering them in the chat for you. So thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate your interest in the HiSET program.
Awesome. So please do use the chat. We will be skipping over some of the slides a little quicker just so we can get through the presentation, but I am available at any time to do any type of training for your organization, your program. If you would like some more individualized attention or a smaller venue, just let me know, and I am absolutely able to help you with that at any time. So we'd like to talk about the overview of the HiSET program in Minnesota. And just so you get to know us a little better, you do actually have a HiSET team. Myself, of course, the adult ed manager, and you have met Tanya. But we also have other people in the background that are working to assist your students, to get them into their testing, to help with issues. And some of those people that you may run into are Roger Creek or Holly Kincaid. Holly is your regional support supervisor, and Roger is your client services manager. And then, of course, we have some other people that work within our group as well. So if you ever have any questions, we're going to talk a little bit later in today's meeting about how to get a hold of those people. So our program encompasses a lot of different departments, of course. So you can see here, there's test center support, the HiSET team itself, content sciences, test taker accommodations, all types of different departments work within the HiSET program to give you the best product that we can. And the HiSET itself was actually purchased from ETS almost 12, 13 months ago. And now we are part of the PSI services. And there are many different types of licensing that PSI itself does, certifications, licensure for all different types of exams. So it's a great way to start a student that begins with a HiSET and to have them just move right on through to another type of certification as they continue to become that lifelong learner. Many stakeholders, of course. Different states have different stakeholders that are responsible for them, such as Department of Ed, Department of Labor, might be part of a community college or corrections. So there's lots of different state stakeholders. And of course, we are here to serve, adult ed programs and the test takers themselves. So the question, why choose the HiSET? There's a lot of benefits to the HiSET. One is test taker flexibility. So we have the ability to do computer-based testing, paper-based testing, as well as online home proctored testing. And we'll talk about that a little bit here in a minute. We have familiar question types. So we are strictly a multiple choice test with one written essay. So you'll see that students are very familiar with those types of questions. There's not a lot of exterior thought on how to do drop and drag and write in the blank and all those different things that a student may not be familiar with. So we have stuck to the tried and true familiar question types, and it really is helpful for the students. We do have a high pass rate of about 80%, so that is great for our students. We are affordable. There is free test prep within our system, as well as other partners that we work with, and through all of the adult education centers that you have throughout your state. It's important to know that even if your program is, picking one or the other test, all the content standards are exactly the same for any high school equivalency test. And those are federally mandated that we follow that college and career readiness standards. So something to think about when planning any type of lessons or things for students, that those contents are relatively similar and the same. We have a huge network of adult educators. So reaching out and collaborating, and I am here for you as well to help with professional development or any types of training that you may need. So our network is extremely large across multiple states, and conferences are a great way to start to get involved, and then working with myself and others just to get your team familiar with the actual HiSET program. We're accessible. Of course, like I said, we do computer-based, paper-based, and at-home proctored testing. And we have multiple formats. So a student can take a test 3 times in a year and be on different formats. Again, paper-based, computer-based, and online proctored. So these are the 3 different types that you're able to access in Minnesota. So it gives the students a lot of choices, which is great when you have a plethora of students of all ages, all walks, types of life, and all backgrounds. So it's very helpful that they are comfortable with the testing process that they choose. And so having all 3 types is really, really helpful when they're deciding, the best course of action for their learning. With the HiSET exam, we have 5 different subtests. You can see here we have reading, which is 50 questions, all multiple choice, of course, 65 minutes in English and a little longer in Spanish. The writing is a little longer because it does include that multiple choice and essay. Math is 55 questions at 90 minutes. Science is 60 with 80 minutes, and social studies is 60 questions with 70 minutes. So you can kind of see the breakdown here. It's great that a student can go and take one test at a time and just kind of focus on the subject that they want to pursue, and then get that test under their belt. So it's set up very nicely for a student to be able to do that. Test takers can register through a variety of methods. So they can go on and set up their HiSET testing portal under My HiSET. There's local test centers that will have students test and come in and register. They may be at a closed facility like corrections, DOC. And then, of course, there's options programs and other special programs that are state specific that students may register through as well. HiSET Secure Online Proctored Testing is an awesome way for a student who may not be close to a testing center, or maybe you, kind of are in a rural setting and it's just a very far drive and students don't have the ability to avail themselves of transportation. Online proctoring is a great way to go. We use secure browsers, so we are extremely secure in what we do. And a student will actually be met with someone to, bring them into the room, look at their ID, do all of those types of things with the student, and then hand them over to a proctor who will, again, look at their ID. We do some selfie picture taking, so we're always sure who's taking the test in a very secure online proctored version of HiSET. So this is a great way to get students out there that don't have that transportation or live in rural areas, to take their test. Minnesota testing fees are currently between $23.75 and $31.25, dependent upon whether they are doing the at-home testing proctored version or they are doing the computer testing or paper-based testing. You can see here that each of the subtests for the computer are $13.75, and there is a $10 test fee. Testing at home is also $13.75, plus a little bit higher test fee because there is a proctor that is live with that student for the entirety of the test. And then the paper test is $18 plus the $10 test center fee. The great thing about HiSET is that students do get 2 free retakes with any subtest that they purchase. The student is still responsible for the test center fee, but we do waive our fee of the $13.75 or $18 so that that student can, kind of overcome some of the barriers of having that paid. And then Minnesota also does have currently, until funds run out, some free vouchers for testing as well. So the retest policy gets a little confusing sometimes for students, but from the date of purchase, the student has 2 free retakes. Whether or not that goes into the following year does not matter as long as they use those retakes within a 12-month period. But a student can only take a test 3 times per year because there are only 3 test forms. So it's a little confusing sometimes for them, but just remember 3 times in a year is all they're allowed, but they do have the 2 free retakes that can cross different calendar years as long as they use them within their 12-month period from date of purchase. So if you have any questions, please reach out and ask. You will have my email at the end of the presentation, so you can email me at any time with questions or anything maybe that you would like some more explanation on. With no-shows, please make it very clear to students that if a student is a no-show, they will forfeit their test fee and will either have to repay or use one of their free retests. Better to cancel 24 hours prior so that they, don't have to use their money or their free test. And if there is an actual emergency, you can reach out to your regional site supervisor, and I will show you the form for that here shortly. And they will be able to work with you and your student to get that corrected. So organizations, so your programs, your state can also purchase HiSET vouchers, and that is not something that the general public can do, but they can go through the state or your adult ed program and do some voucher purchasing. It's great if you can find sponsors out in the business world sometimes that will sponsor vouchers for students to, go through and take their testing so that they can move forward in the community. So it's a great way to share back and forth with businesses, students, and your community programs. So let's talk about HiSET scoring. Scoring is based on a 20-point scale. So each subtest has a maximum point system of 20, and the minimum a student must have is an 8. But overall, the entire score must be a 45. So what that means is a student must get some extra points somewhere, and maybe if they're very good at math, they may be able to get an 11 or 12 just to make up some extra points. Maybe they excel at social studies or science, but just so that students know there's 5 tests, minimum of 8, but they must achieve a 45. So they are going to have to find some extra points and focus on probably what is the easiest for them and the most enjoyable to take to earn those extra points. One question that we get a lot is about the multiple choice and essay on the writing subtest. So I have done extreme amounts of research and have talked to multiple different departments, and the score report does include the essay and the multiple choice together. So when a student gets their comprehensive score report, they will see a score, maybe it says a score of 10. And it says also an essay score of 2. That means that they received an 8 on their multiple choice. So that is an inclusive score on the score report, and we'll look at that here in a second. For college and career readiness scores, a student must have 15 and above with an essay score of a 4. So you're looking here at the individual score report. This is for writing, and you will see here that the student received a 2 in the essay, and it says 15 in language arts writing. That means that they got a 13 on their multiple choice. And we are working right now to do a little different language presentation on the score reports, and those will be coming hopefully in the near future. And then the comprehensive score report would look like this. And you can see the highest scale score is listed there, the test date, and whether they have passed or not. And again, if you see the writing, which is the last of the subtests, you'll see that the scale score was a 14, and it says the essay score was 2. This means that the writing multiple choice portion was a 12. So we are going to be adding a little bit of language there, and that will be coming out soon here, hopefully in 2024. Online, we do have great essay scoring guides and samples, and you can see here, these are the rubrics that are used with all of our tests. All of our writing tests are human graded, so we do have 2 separate humans grading each of the essays by hand. And if for some reason those test scores do not correlate, then we do actually have a third person that will come in and look at all of those of that writing score. So rest assured that everyone uses the same rubric, and this is a really good explanation of the different scores that you can share with students as you are working through the essay writing portion. This is a great thing to use with students. Online, you'll see each of the 6 scores represented by the student's writing response, the piece of literature that they are writing about, and then what their test score was. And it makes a kind of a great activity that you can use in the classroom by having students match up, their writing responses with the correct response that was scored, and it really kind of gives students something to kind of analyze and talk about, and makes a great writing activity. And you'll see that the scoring guide here will show, why it was scored the way it was, and that is, of course, according to the rubric that we use, and it does lend itself to some great academic lessons. So we do have a lot of information and resources on our website. And if you look at the website, we have 2 tabs at the top, one for test takers and one for test centers and adult ed providers. And right now we're looking at the test taker tab itself. And on that test taker tab, you're going to see information about the test. You'll see state requirements, and in a minute we're going to look at this. Most important that a student and staff know their state requirements. We'll look at how to look at testing centers, adult education centers, and scheduling. We're going to talk about some accommodations, how to prepare and take the test, what the scores are and what the scores mean, and then resources and how to get your information afterwards. So with the requirements page, when a student hits the requirements tab, this will pop up, and then you can do the drop-down box and look for your specific state. And when you do that, it will show you your requirements page. This is going to be a little difficult to read, but it is going to talk about the age that a student needs to be, what happens when they are underage, how to get their age waiver and their enrollment status. It's going to talk about residency. Some states require that a student is a resident. Some states do not. Test prep or instruction. Again, some states will require that a student does test prep, and then some states do not have that requirement. So it's very important that a student and the staff are very familiar with your test requirements page. It's also going to talk about the cost and the retesting fees, which of course is free on our side for those 2 free retests, but they do have that $10 fee for the testing centers, and the $17.50 if they do the proctored at home. But just make sure the student is very familiar with this page. So again, it's the state requirements page specifically for Minnesota. Also on this page, you're going to see a sample of the different types of tests that are offered in Minnesota. And fortunately, you are able to have the students do computer-based, paper-based, or test at home. So the student is able to avail themselves of all 3 different modalities, which is great for students. It puts them in their comfort zone, so they don't have to worry about the format of a test. They can just rely on studying for the content. So makes one barrier disappear for students when they are comfortable with the type of test. And of course, your own information. When a student does pull up scheduling, they will be able to see find a test center or program near you. And in the location type, you can put all categories. You can put testing center, or you can just put adult ed program, and it will pull up across the state, or you can narrow it down to specific zip code of where testing centers and programs are located. So we do have a lot of test center support available to you, especially through your regional site supervisor. 3 different areas that handle client customer support would be client services, and they are more going to be working with contracting and vouchers, website updates, working with the state leaders in supports and different inquiries. Your test center support is your regional site supervisor, possibly help desk if there's some technical issues, doing some session management, scheduling, things like that, and working with training. And then there's your test taker support. So a student is in process of taking a test and maybe they need some assistance with that. They have the test taker support here, possibly a misspelled name. They're looking for exam accommodations, things like that. For the test center and adult educator, we also have a tab, a little bit different than the test takers, a little more information, and also a lot of resources. So you'll see here there's computer-based resources, paper-based, and also test taker support resources. And you'll see many different things that you can avail yourself of. Some of the resource documents that we do have is the program manual. So that is covering everything from A to Z. We have requirements flyers, pulling rosters if you're at a test center. A lot of these are for test centers. So if you are going to be one that is handling the student coming in and taking their test, you'll need to learn how to schedule and pay, how to print receipts, do sign-ins, and different things that a test center would need. But all of these resources are handy right on our website. One of the most important people that you can get to know is your regional site supervisor. And for the state of Minnesota, that is Holly Kincaid. And I can say from personal experience, she is a whiz at working through scheduling issues, merging accounts. So maybe a student is in the Department of Corrections and has a couple different accounts from different areas. She is great at being able to merge those things, doing some access and account requests. So anytime you need assistance from your regional site supervisor, it is Miss Holly Kincaid. We do have site administration and session management also, and that's test day support, including password resets and things like that, that you can contact site admin for as well. The test center help desk is a little different. It's more for an emergency site closure. Maybe there's a water main break, and there needs to be some help there. Also, they're able to add paper-based testing or CBT, computer-based testing. They're working on maybe new site setups or ordering materials, just a lot of different things for support. Here's one of the most important slides for you. So for test center support, there is a form, and on the next page, I will have a link for that for you. But you are able to contact your regional site supervisor through that form, site admin, session management, and we'll look at that here in a second. But the test center help desk, test taker services phone number, and also accommodations phone number are listed here. And we have submitted this for you, so you will have this presentation and be able to have a reference to these phone numbers. So this is the test center support form. You can see right underneath is the actual link to this form so that you can submit a request. You will see here there are many areas of need, and one of the most important, of course, is the sixth one down there, contact my regional site supervisor. So if you're having issues maybe that haven't been resolved, or you have questions, please don't hesitate to fill out this form and contact your regional site supervisor. It's very important to use the form because we do not have an emailing system, so that we don't lose your emails. So this form is very, very important. It's monitored constantly, and I know Holly is absolutely fantastic at fixing your requests and answering them in a very timely manner, sometimes within minutes. So she is very good at following through on your needs for this request, but it must be submitted through the test center support form. This is only for yourselves. It is never to go out to students or anyone that is not, working with the specific students taking a test or at a test center. So please don't hand this out because it is just there for yourselves. If you have any questions, please make sure that you reach out and I can answer them for you as well. So there's a test center administrator client portal. Of course, they can look for test takers. They can add or delete age waivers, review performance, look at birth dates, and things such as that. So a lot of things there with test taker services. And now my favorite part of the presentation is all about accommodations. So our students, of course, have many barriers, as we well know, and one of those is having undiagnosed or early life diagnosis of learning disabilities or mental health challenges or other issues that may create a barrier for the student trying to take their HiSET exam. So what's really exciting about the HiSET accommodations is that it doesn't require a lot of legwork of running to doctors' offices and psychiatry offices or counseling offices. A student may simply upload their IEP or 504 if they had one previously while they were in school. And maybe it's 10 years old, and that is okay. They may also have a doctor's diagnosis, and that is all right as well. But the great thing about our HiSET accommodations is that an educator may also write a letter asking for accommodations with the student's knowledge, of course, and okay, that they work with the student on doing this accommodations form. But gathering information on the student and what helps them to get through an exam, such as the HiSET. So we're going to look at the accommodations you may request, some things that you don't need requests for, and then we'll look at the actual form. So, of course, accommodations are typically given for maybe ADD or ADHD, any type of psychological or psychiatric disorders, lots of learning or cognitive disabilities, also physical disorders, chronic health disabilities, intellectual issues, and hearing and visual impairments. And some of the things that they may ask for are here on this chart. So if it's a PBT, that's paper-based test, you can see that there's extended time, separate room, large print, possibly a scribe if that's needed, or additional supervised breaks, sign language interpretation, Braille, of course, or a reader. And then with your computer-based, you have all those except for the large print, but you do have screen magnification, so that sets your large print by paper. And then we do not have, of course, Braille on computer-based, but we do have a reader and a screen reader, and then refreshable Braille. So we have all of the commonly approved accommodations available for your test takers. Some of the accommodations that don't require approval, that might make it just more comfortable for your students or for them to feel more at home in that testing scenario. They can bring tinted or colored overlays. So if you're using Erlen screens or making your own colored overlays, those are acceptable to bring as long as they are not marked on. Earplugs, of course, not attached to any electronic device. Plain straight edge, magnifying devices, of course, just not electric or attached to any type of camera. They can bring a seat cushion or a stool or a back pillow or something, that makes them more comfortable. Of course, they can have their prescription medication with the dosage and time. So if that's an issue, that is certainly allowable. Service animal, and that is something that is allowable as well. Medical devices and a highlighter, a black pen for essays and scratch work. And when you are in a testing center, of course, they will give you your scratch paper. So this is a very simple request that is required for our HiSET accommodations. And you can see it's simply an email address, what the subject is, requesting accommodations, and then describing the accommodations that you would like to see and what the issues you are seeing, not diagnosing, but just things that you have seen with the student, or it could be in the student's own words as well. What the candidate's name, phone number, first and last, of course, and then program, where are they taking the course or the exam, just as kind of, it doesn't have to be set in stone, but the accommodations team would kind of like to have an idea. So when they start looking for a reader or a scribe, they'll kind of know the area and what test center to reach out to. And then other special equipment that the student may have. If they need to have a walker, or maybe they're in a wheelchair, or they have other devices that they may need to assist them in taking exams. Those will be listed there. And then, of course, here's the 3 locations, 1, 2, and 3 that they would prefer to take their exam. Again, this just helps the accommodations team to, schedule a little quicker. And then 3 testing dates. So if a student kind of knows they work on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, if they have a pretty set schedule, this makes it a lot easier for quick scheduling. But if they don't, they can just put specific dates down. That's very helpful for the accommodations team. And then does the student prefer a morning or an afternoon? And then, of course, the very last thing here on the right-hand side is to add the file. So if they do have that IEP or the 504, or you are an educator that is going to be submitting a letter for the students on letterhead and signed by the educator, of course, as their advocate, that gets put here into add file, and then you can drop that right in. Our accommodations turnaround is very, very quick. Most students are finding out within 48 hours to 72 hours that they have had accommodations approved. The part that's going to take a little longer, and that we, of course, ask your patience in, is scheduling the students, especially when they're looking for a scribe or a reader. And of course, that just becomes a scheduling issue, trying to get a hold of the student, getting a hold of the test center, getting a hold of approved readers or scribes. So it does just take a little bit of finesse to get everybody on the same page at the same place at the same time. And you know your students well, so a lot of times phone numbers will change, emails will change. It's a little more difficult sometimes to get a hold of students and then, you know, to do that process of trying to get everybody scheduled at the same place and same time. So a little patience there goes a long way, so much appreciated. Um, but we are all about getting accommodations for students that need it, getting them approved quickly so that they know they're going to have them, really alleviates a barrier that our students have, and helps them focus again on that content. But again, please let me know if you have questions or need a sample of an educator letter. I can certainly provide that for you. So let's look at some practice testing. We have free, paid, and official practice tests. And all will be happy to know we do have new official practice tests coming out, hopefully Q1, more towards late March is what we anticipate, but those will be coming. But we do have currently Forms 6 and 7 free, and they can be downloaded directly from the HiSET website under the resource tab there. We also have paid practice tests that anyone can go in and purchase a practice test through our PSI online store. We do have official practice tests. The official practice test can be purchased by state agencies or adult ed programs, or if they want to do a digital version of the official practice test, it can be done through Essential Education. So they are the software provider that holds our contract currently for the official practice test in the digital form. So if a student is going to go that route, it's helpful for them to experience that online as well. And then we do have a link here to a practice test in all of our materials. And then another great thing for students, if they've already done maybe these downloaded practice tests, we do have a digital version for them as well. And at the end of every state requirements page, you will see the 5 subjects: math, reading, science, social studies, and writing. And if a student just clicks on one of those, it will take them directly to an interactive digital practice test. And it's a great way, again, for a student to just get that practice, to become familiar with computer-based testing, if they're not quite as familiar. But this is a great way for students to take just a digital version of the practice test. When it does come up, the interactive practice test will look like this. This is kind of the instructions page. So you will see instructions on how to take the test. You'll have an answer for item 1, and then there's item 2. And then when you hit continue, it will ask, do you want to continue your test, yes or no? And normally you would think that you are going to say yes, but you're actually going to say no. You want to end this section because this is just instructions on how to take this digital version of our practice test. So again, when they're looking at these, reading through the instructions, trying a little sample here, when it asks after you hit continue, if you would like to end the test, you do want to end the test so the student will then be prompted and thrown into the actual practice test where they can continue. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Some of our great educator resources are under the resource tab. One of my favorites is the HiSET Test at a Glance, which is the top one on the left-hand side here. I like it because number 1, it gives a breakdown of every single test, how much information is on it, what is the depth of knowledge, what percentage of questions under the content are on the test. And also, it's going to align to the college and career readiness standards that all high school equivalency tests must be aligned to. So no matter what they're studying for, they're all going to be studying the college and career readiness standards for high school equivalency. So Those are all given also in that test at a glance. So it is a great resource, awesome for lesson planning, great for doing individual learning plans if you are working with those with your students. Just really helpful information. There's also a study companion for students. Lots of information. Are you ready to take the HiSET exam? We looked at a little bit of the sample writing responses because those are very helpful to look at those rubrics with the students and scoring their writing assignments using that rubric. So they really get used to having that in class and knowing what's expected of them. Then we have the scoring guides. We do have a formula sheet that'll pop up here in a minute, and a test taker bulletin, and then some interesting facts on the benefits of taking the HiSET exam. So we talked about the test at a glance. It is available in English and in Spanish. The calculator is allowable on the math test, and that is for the entire math test. When a student does use this calculator, this is what will pop up on the computer-based calculator section. So if they need to use it, they will be able to hit calculator and use it on screen. If they are in a center that is providing calculators, it is entirely up to the test-taking center, whether they are providing a TI-30 or they're providing just a 4-function, simple calculator. But on the actual CBT itself, the computer, this is the calculator that the students will see. And then that math formula sheet, there are 3 formulas that are not included on that formula sheet. So maybe that's a little bit of a hint on things we need to work with our students. One of those not included formulas is distance, also the Pythagorean theorem, and quadratic formulas. So these are 3 very important formulas that students may need to be learning and using as they're going in to take that math test. And then you can see that the formula sheet is also in English and Spanish, and it does give things such as perimeter, circumference, area, volume, capacity, weight, and length, and just some things that a student may need to know when they're in doing their math test. So my contact information is here, and it is available for you to contact me at any time with any question. There's no question that I will not be able to find an answer to, but I am available again for training, professional development, whether you just have a staff meeting and want me to pop in for 30 minutes for questions, I can do that as well. And you do have my information, and I would love to be able to chat with you at any time. Tanya, I'm going to see if we have some chat questions that we might be able to answer. Or if anybody does have some additional questions, please throw them in the chat and we can answer those as well.
I don't have any questions now, but I'm wondering if anyone might have questions, maybe about accommodations or paper-based testing, because I know that those are usually hot topics, and we do have those readily available. Happy to address any questions if anyone has them.
Hey, Tanya, this is Brandy with the state office, and I just wanted to let those that are here, if they are looking for paper-based testing, that there's a specific on our site requirements under the FAQs that there are specific accommodations or segues that need to be fulfilled for eligible paper-based testing, but they are super flexible. So I want to say that make sure that you're looking at that page and not just automatically assuming you can give a paper base, but it is flexible, and just kind of check out that page.
And just a couple more details to reemphasize that is, of course, papers available for approved accommodations. So that's part of our normal process. And then for Minnesota in particular, the requirements that Brandy's mentioning has to do with if someone needs religious accommodations, or they might be in a correctional facility, or if they're at a site that's maybe having internet issues or accessibility issues. And then any additional situations would be further discussed by MDE experts. So really straightforward.
Yeah, that's why it's very important to stay on top of your state requirements page, because we will update that as needed, but it does have a wealth of information for your students. And thank you, Brandy. Any other questions that we can answer for you at this time? One other thing I did want to bring up about accommodations. We were talking about how the process is great, it's quick. And then with the scheduling, it's very important that the student not schedule themselves to take that test, but they must work with the accommodations team in order to get their accommodations testing scheduled. So that's really important if you are someone that's working with a student, to make sure that they are working with the accommodations team to get those tests scheduled. So it will delay and cause issues if they do get all excited, and they get all excited to get those accommodations approved, and it's so quick, and they're gung-ho, and they want to go tomorrow. And a lot of them will try to pop on and get their test scheduled, and then they realize that it doesn't have accommodations attached to it because they need to work with the accommodations team. So I can't stress that enough. That is a really important step when a student is afforded those accommodations, that they need to be working with our accommodations team members to get that scheduled and set up with the testing center. So if you have other questions about that, please make sure that you do reach out.
I think I will turn the recording off now if we're done with questions.
Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate your time today, and we're looking forward to working with Minnesota and moving forward, and excited about doing some more training coming up soon.